Chosen one, this message didn't find you by accident. I know you weren't planning to watch this for long, but something inside you told you to stay. And that's important, because what I'm about to share will explain why everything in your life has felt like it's shifting all at once. Stay with me. Don't leave yet. This matters for you. You've been sensing it, haven't you? Not always clearly. Sometimes it feels like restlessness. Other times like a quiet anticipation you can't explain. Something is changing. Not just around you, but within you. And you didn't imagine it. You may have noticed that what once felt normal no longer fits the same way. Things you used to tolerate now feel heavy. Conversations that once energized you now drain you. Paths you once thought you wanted now feel strangely empty. And at first, you wondered if something was wrong with you. You questioned yourself, your discernment, your faith. But hear this gently now. Nothing is wrong with you. You are awakening to alignment. Change often announces itself through discomfort. And the discomfort you've been feeling is not loss, it's transition. I know this season hasn't been easy. You've been carrying questions quietly, holding emotions you didn't feel safe sharing, smiling when inside you felt uncertain. There were days you felt strong and nights you felt fragile. Days when you trusted God fully and moments when you whispered, "Lord, what is happening?" You weren't losing faith. You were being stretched. Because growth always stretches us before it steadies us. And you, chosen one, have been growing in ways that don't show on the surface yet. Stay with me. I want you to feel understood here. You've been waiting for clarity, waiting for confirmation, waiting for something to settle. But instead, it felt like everything started moving at once. Relationships shifting, priorities rearranging, desires changing. It felt unsettling. And you asked yourself, why now? Why all at once? Here is the gentle truth. God often changes multiple things at once when He is moving you out of an old season completely. Partial change keeps you attached. Complete change sets you free. What feels like disruption is actually divine reordering. You see, there are seasons where God adds things and seasons where God removes things. This is a season of alignment, not punishment, not loss. Alignment. And alignment can feel uncomfortable because it requires honesty. Honesty about what no longer serves your spirit. Honesty about what you've outgrown. Honesty about where God is leading you next. You couldn't stay where you were and become who you're meant to be. So things had to shift. Even the things you liked. Even the things that felt familiar. Especially those. I know part of you wanted stability. You wanted things to settle. You wanted predictability. You wanted peace without transition. But sometimes peace only comes after courage. And courage is what you've been showing even when you felt unsure. You kept moving forward. You kept praying. You kept choosing faith, even when clarity lagged behind. That matters. Heaven notices obedience and uncertainty. And that's why change is happening now. Let me say this clearly and gently. This is not everything falling apart. This is everything falling into place. It just doesn't look like it yet. You're in the middle, between what was and what will be. And the middle often feels messy. But it's sacred, because the middle is where transformation happens. You're not losing your identity. You're discovering it. You're not being stripped. You're being refined. You're not being pushed out. You're being led forward. Stay with me. Don't let your mind rush ahead. Let your heart stay here. There were things God protected you from by allowing them to end. There were doors that didn't open because they would have delayed you. There were relationships that shifted because they couldn't follow you into the next season. This doesn't mean they were bad. It means they were seasonal. And seasons change not to punish us, but to grow us. You're learning how to let go without resentment, how to move forward without bitterness, how to trust God without needing every detail. That is maturity forming. And maturity attracts stability. You may feel like you're standing on unfamiliar ground. What once felt certain now feels flexible. What once felt secure now feels questioned. But unfamiliar ground doesn't mean unsafe ground. Sometimes God brings you somewhere new, so you stop leaning on old assumptions. So you learn to listen again, to depend again, to trust again. And you've been listening. Even when answers came slowly, even when guidance came quietly. You didn't abandon your faith. You deepened it. And that's why everything is changing now. You've outgrown old limits, old mindsets, old fears, old versions of yourself. What once required effort will soon feel natural. What once intimidated you will soon feel manageable. What once confused you will soon make sense. But first things had to shift. And shifts feel unsettling before they feel freeing. Stay with me. This next truth is important. God does not waste seasons. Not the painful ones. Not the confusing ones. Not the quiet ones. Every moment you spent waiting was preparing you. Every unanswered prayer was shaping your discernment. Every delay was protecting your heart. And now, the preparation is meeting timing. That's why things feel like they're moving, even if nothing is fully visible yet. Change often begins internally before it becomes external. And your inner world has been changing. Your desires are purifying. Your priorities are clarifying. Your spirit is strengthening. This is not random. This is divine movement. You're learning how to trust yourself again. Not your ego. Not your fear. But the quiet wisdom God placed within you. You're learning when to pause. When to speak. When to wait. You're becoming discerning. And discernment is essential for what's ahead. Because what's coming will require clarity, not confusion. Peace, not panic. Confidence, not force. And that's why everything is changing now. I know part of you still feels unsure. You're wondering if you're making the right decisions, if you're hearing God clearly, if you're ready for what's next. Let me assure you gently, you don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to stay open and faithful and willing. God reveals steps as you walk them, not before, not all at once. And you've been walking, even when the path felt unclear, even when the future felt uncertain. That's faith in motion. Take a breath with me. You're not late. You're not failing.
Somewhere steadier than where you've been standing. And I want you to hear this with gentleness, not fear. The change you're experiencing is not taking something from you. It's making room. You've been asking God for growth, for clarity, for peace. But growth requires space. Clarity requires truth. And peace often requires release. That's why things have been loosening around you. What you once clung to tightly is no longer clinging back. And instead of fighting that, your spirit has been learning how to let go. Not dramatically, not angrily, but quietly. That's wisdom forming. Stay with me. This understanding will calm your heart. You've been shedding layers, not all at once, slowly. Layers of expectation that were never yours to carry. Layers of pressure that didn't come from God. Layers of identity shaped by survival instead of calling. And at times, this shedding felt like loss. You asked yourself, why do I feel lighter and sad at the same time? Because release can be tender. Letting go of old versions of yourself means saying goodbye to who you needed to be to survive. But survival is no longer your assignment. Becoming is. And becoming feels unfamiliar because it asks you to trust instead of brace. You're learning how to live open-handed. And that's why everything is changing now. There's another reason this shift feels intense. You are becoming more aware of what drains you, more aware of what feeds your spirit, more aware of when something is misaligned. This awareness didn't come to torment you, it came to guide you. Before, you tolerated discomfort. Now you recognize it. Before, you ignored nudges. Now you pause. That's discernment awakening. And discernment always precedes direction. God is teaching you how to listen without needing noise, how to recognize peace without needing proof, how to follow Him without rushing ahead. That's not regression, that's growth. You may have noticed that your tolerance for chaos has decreased. Things that once felt manageable now feel overwhelming. Not because you're weaker, but because you're more aligned. Alignment brings sensitivity. You're no longer numb, you're present. And presence can feel uncomfortable at first because you're no longer avoiding what your soul needs. You're listening now. To your spirit, to God's prompting, to the quiet unease that says, this isn't for you anymore. And every time you honor that voice, you step closer to peace. Stay with me. This is important for where you're headed. Let me tell you something reassuring. God does not lead through confusion. If something leaves you constantly anxious, constantly drained, constantly unsettled, that's not alignment. Alignment may challenge you, but it won't strip you of peace. And lately you've been choosing peace even when it meant disappointing others. That was not selfish, that was obedience. You're learning how to choose what's life-giving instead of what's familiar. And familiarity is not always safety. Sometimes it's just habit. God is breaking habits that no longer support who you're becoming. That's why everything feels new. You may be grieving parts of your old life quietly. Old dreams, old plans, old versions of how you thought things would look. And that grief is valid. Change doesn't mean those dreams were wrong. It means they were stepping stones. You needed them to get here, but you don't need to carry them forward. God is not erasing your past. He's integrating it. Nothing you've learned will be wasted. The patience, the resilience, the compassion, all of it will serve you in what's coming. But it will serve you differently, with less struggle,
with more grace. You are also being repositioned internally. Your motivation is changing. You're no longer driven by proving yourself. You're driven by alignment. You're no longer chasing approval. You're seeking peace. You're no longer afraid of being alone if it means being honest. That's a powerful shift. And it didn't happen overnight. It came through moments where you chose truth over comfort, silence over noise, depth over distraction. This is why things are changing now, because you are ready for a different kind of life. I know part of you wonders, will this new season be stable? Let me answer that softly. Yes, but not rigid. Stable doesn't mean stagnant, it means rooted. You're being rooted now, in who you are, in what you value, in what you believe. So when movement comes, you won't be shaken. You won't lose yourself trying to keep up. You'll move with intention, and intention brings peace. Stay with me. We're still uncovering this together. You're also learning that not every change needs an explanation. Some shifts are meant to be felt, not justified. You don't owe everyone clarity while you're still receiving it. It's okay to say, I'm still figuring this out. It's okay to pause before committing. It's okay to take your time. God is not in a hurry with you. He's patient. And that patience is rubbing off on you. You're becoming gentler with yourself. That's healing. There is a quiet confidence growing in you. Not loud, not arrogant, just steady. You're beginning to trust your discernment again. You're honoring your limits, you're respecting your energy. You're choosing what aligns instead of what impresses. That confidence will guide you well, because the next season will offer choices, and you will need clarity to choose wisely. That's why everything is changing now. You're being prepared to choose, not react. Take a moment here. You don't need to rush. Let your shoulders relax. Let your breath slow. You are not falling behind. You are being recalibrated. And recalibration always feels like disruption before it feels like balance. Stay with me, because what's unfolding is not just a change in direction. It's a change in how you walk forward.
Forward with a steadiness you didn't have before. This is where something important settles into your spirit. You were no longer moving out of urgency. You were moving out of understanding. Before, you needed answers quickly. You needed reassurance often. You needed signs to feel safe. But now, there is a quieter confidence in you. You don't need everything explained to take the next step. You don't need every outcome guaranteed to keep trusting God. You've learned how to walk without constantly looking behind you. That didn't come easily. It came through moments when you wanted clarity but chose faith instead. And that choice is changing everything. Stay with me. This matters deeply for you. You've been noticing a shift in how you respond to pressure. Things that once sent your mind racing now invite you to pause. You breathe before reacting. You listen before speaking. You pray before deciding. That is not hesitation. That is wisdom forming. God has been teaching you how to slow down internally, even when life feels fast externally. Because what's coming into your life will require presence, not speed, not hustle, presence. And you are learning presence now. There was a time when you measured progress by how much you accomplished, how much you fixed, how much you held together, how much you endured. But now, God is shifting how you measure growth. Growth is no longer how much you carry, it's how lightly you carry it. It's how you protect your peace, how you choose rest with guilt, how you say no with fear. This new way of living may feel unfamiliar, but it's healthier. And heaven is pleased with this kind of growth, because it leads to sustainability. You may still feel moments of uncertainty, moments when you wonder if you're really hearing God clearly. Let me reassure you gently. You don't need to be perfect to be led by God. You just need to be willing. And you are willing. You're listening more carefully now. You're discerning instead of assuming. You're asking quieter, deeper questions. That posture invites guidance. God doesn't shout directions to hearts that are already listening. He whispers. And you're learning how to hear whispers. There's also something else changing in you. Your relationship with waiting. Waiting no longer feels like punishment. It feels purposeful. You're beginning to see waiting as space to breathe, space to prepare, space to align. You're no longer rushing God to hurry up and act. You're trusting that when He moves, it will be right. This trust didn't appear suddenly.
It grew through disappointment, through prayers that took time, through doors that didn't open when you hoped. And still, you stayed open. That openness is precious. Stay with me. I want you to see this clearly. You are becoming someone who can receive good things without suspicion. This is a big shift. Before, when something good appeared, you waited for the other shoe to drop. You braced yourself. You guarded your joy. But healing is loosening that grip. You're learning how to enjoy moments without fear of losing them, how to receive kindness without questioning motives, how to trust God's goodness without needing to protect yourself from hope. That's healing. And healing prepares you for stability. You might have noticed that you're less interested in proving yourself. You don't need to be the strongest in the room anymore. You don't need to be the most capable. You don't need to be the one who holds everything together. You're learning how to be held. By God, by grace, by peace. This doesn't make you weaker. It makes you wiser. Because now, you know where your strength actually comes from. And that knowledge changes how you live. There is also a quiet courage rising in you. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the steady kind. The courage to be honest. The courage to set boundaries. The courage to walk away from what no longer aligns. This courage doesn't need approval. It's rooted in clarity. And clarity always leads to freedom. God is not just changing your circumstances. He's changing how you carry yourself within them. That's why everything is changing now. You may not see the full picture yet. That's okay. Faith was never about seeing everything. It was about trusting enough to take the next step. And you are taking the next step. Even when it feels small, even when it feels quiet. Heaven honors faithful steps. You are not stagnant. You are in motion. Slow motion, but intentional. And intentional movement leads to lasting peace. Stay with me just a little longer. Because what's coming next is not about effort. It's about alignment meeting opportunity. And you are closer to that moment than you realize. What's changing now is preparing you to recognize it when it arrives. Not with fear, not with confusion, but with a deep, steady knowing that says, this is where I'm meant to be.
And when that knowing settles in, it doesn't rush you. It doesn't push you to prove anything. It simply rests in you. You recognize it because it feels calm. It feels steady. It feels like peace without explanation. That is how God often confirms alignment. Not with noise, not with pressure, but with a quiet certainty that feels like home. And you are learning to trust that feeling. There was a time when you doubted yourself deeply. You questioned your discernment. You replayed conversations in your mind. You wondered if you were too sensitive, too slow, too different. But God has been gently restoring your confidence. Not confidence rooted in ego, but confidence rooted in identity. You are beginning to know who you are without needing constant validation. You are becoming anchored, and anchored people are not easily shaken. This season has taught you something priceless. You don't need to react to everything. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to carry what was never yours to hold. You've learned the power of silence, the strength of restraint, the wisdom of letting God defend you. That is maturity. And maturity attracts trust. There are people watching you right now who don't say much. They notice how you move, how you speak, how you don't respond the way you used to. You may not realize it, but your quiet growth is speaking loudly. Even angels are attentive to what God is forming in you, not because you are perfect, but because you are yielded, and heaven responds to yielded hearts. Stay with me. This part is important, because there is something you need to release in order to fully step into what's changing. You've been holding on to an old version of yourself, the version that survived by overworking,
The version that stayed strong by staying silent. The version that kept going by ignoring your own needs. That version helped you survive. But it's not meant to lead you forward. God is inviting you to lay that version down gently. Not in shame, not in regret, but in gratitude. You can thank that version of you for getting you this far, and then let it rest. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to want different things now. You are allowed to choose peace over pressure. You are allowed to desire stability over struggle. This does not mean you've lost your faith. It means your faith has matured. And mature faith understands that God is not glorified by burnout. He is glorified by wholeness. You may feel moments of grief for what you thought life would look like by now. That grief is valid. There were dreams that took longer, timelines that shifted, expectations that changed. But hear this gently. Delayed does not mean denied. Sometimes God delays because He's protecting you from receiving something too early. Too early can harm what is meant to bless you. And God loves you too much to rush what needs roots. Everything changing now is not random. It's coordinated. Your mindset, your priorities, your relationships, your desires. God is aligning the inside of you with what He plans to bring around you, so that when opportunity appears, it doesn't overwhelm you. It fits you. You won't have to shrink to hold it. You won't have to strain to keep it. You'll be ready. You might still be tempted to compare your journey to others, to wonder why their progress looks faster, why their doors open sooner. But comparison cannot measure calling. Their path required different lessons, different preparation, different timing. What God is building in you requires depth, and depth takes time. But depth lasts. There is a peace being cultivated in you that cannot be shaken by circumstances. That peace will soon become your compass. You'll recognize decisions that pull you away from it, and you'll have the courage to choose differently. That is discernment growing, and discernment is a gift. Stay with me just a little longer, because what's ahead is not just about change. It's about confirmation. There will be moments soon where things click into place, where conversations align, where doors open naturally, where you don't have to force anything. You'll look back on this season and realize, this is where I learned how to trust God without needing control. This is where I learned how to rest without giving up. This is where I became ready. You are closer than you think. Not to perfection, not to having it all figured out, but to peace. And peace is the foundation of everything God wants to build in your life. Let that settle in your heart. And as you sit with that truth, you may feel something soft beginning to rise within you. Hope. Quiet. Steady. Unforced. That hope is not fragile. It's rooted. And it's leading you exactly where you need to be.
And when that hope settles in, you don't have to rush to do anything with it. You don't have to act immediately. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to prove that it's real. You simply allow it to be there. Hope, when it's from God, is gentle. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It stays. You may notice now that your heart feels quieter than it used to. Not empty, just quieter. The noise that once crowded your thoughts has begun to fade. The constant self-questioning, the pressure to get everything right, the fear of missing something important. God has been clearing space in you because peace needs room to live, and peace has made a home in you. This is why everything is changing now. Not because the world suddenly became easier, but because you are no longer carrying it the same way. You're not bracing for impact anymore. You're not expecting disappointment as default. You are open. Open to being led. Open to being surprised by goodness. Open to receiving what you once felt unworthy of. That openness is powerful. You are learning how to trust God without needing a backup plan. That doesn't mean you stop being wise. It means you stop living in fear. You no longer make decisions based on what might go wrong. You're beginning to move based on what feels aligned, peaceful, and true. That's faith in motion. There may still be moments when old thoughts try to return. Moments when doubt whispers, "Nothing is really changing." But now you recognize that voice. And you don't argue with it. You let it pass. Because your spirit knows better. Your spirit knows that change doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it arrives quietly and stays. God has been strengthening you in ways you didn't ask for, but deeply needed. You didn't pray to be more patient, yet patience grew. You didn't ask to be more discerning, yet clarity formed. You didn't request deeper peace, yet rest found you. That's how God works. He gives you what sustains you, not just what excites you. And now, let me speak this gently over you. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing anything meant for you. Everything that belongs to you is moving toward you at the right pace. And everything not meant for you is falling away without resistance. This is protection. There will be days ahead that feel lighter, not because nothing goes wrong, but because you're no longer carrying what was never yours. You'll laugh more easily, rest more deeply, decide more confidently. You'll notice yourself responding with grace, where you once reacted with fear. That is growth, and growth is something to honor. You may not see angels. You may not feel anything dramatic, but heaven is attentive to your obedience, to your quiet prayers, to your unseen faithfulness, to your willingness to keep going, even when you didn't feel strong. Your life matters, your faith matters, and your becoming matters. As this message comes to rest, take a moment, place a hand over your heart if you can, and simply say, "God, I trust you." Not loudly, not perfectly, just honestly. You don't need to rush back into noise. Sit with this peace. Let it linger. If this message brought comfort or clarity, you're welcome to stay connected here. You're welcome to subscribe, to return whenever you need a quiet reminder of truth. And as you go, carry this with you. You are seen. You are guided. You are held. And everything changing now is leading you exactly where you are meant to be.